Over the years, there's been a growing and noticeable change in demographics in the United States, the Latino community, as well as major economic forces that have driven Latino migration. Tomorrow, here on the campus of Lehman College, there'll be a very special event. Several professors, including our next guest, will speak on these points as well as defending the rights of the Latino community. Professor Alfonso Gonzales joins us now to discuss the event, as well as how much the Latino vote will affect the 2012 elections. And good to have you here, Professor Gonzales.
Thank you.
2012 is right around the corner.
Absolutely.
And the elections are right around the corner, and we know that the Latino community is going to play a major part in that. And I know that's some of the things that you're actually talking about in tomorrow's conference, but share with us the foundation for tomorrow's gathering.
Well, tomorrow's gathering is in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, which is an event, a month in which events honoring the Latino community has become rather important, especially since 1992. This has become a major month for holding events about Latinos in the United States. And in particular, one of the things that's happened is, you know, Hispanic heritage events have often been about celebration, music, food, dancing. But tomorrow's event here at Lehman College, we decided to take an explicitly more political and social approach to Hispanic Heritage Month, precisely because the Latino community is at a point in which we have major human rights violations happening. You know, we have 3,000 people who have died at the U.S.-Mexico border since 1994. Latinos are now the largest group in federal prison. Latino children are amongst the poorest children in the United States at this moment. So we have, you know, serious, pressing social issues in the Latino community. That's why we decided to have tomorrow's event take a look at these things, right? Beyond fiestas and you know, food celebrations, let's take a serious look at some of these hard-hitting social issues. So
who do you have coming to the table?
We have Professor Andres Torres from the Department of Puerto Rican and Latin American Studies. He specializes in political economy. He's an economist. We have Professor Alicia Galvez, who's an anthropologist who studies immigration, citizenship. In particular, she studies the Mexican community here in New York City, which has become, as we all know, a rather large subsection of the Latino community here in New York. We have Professor Juan de la Cruz, who is a professor of economics. And you have myself, and you have another professor, Fioy Mata, who is the chair of Puerto Rican and Latin American Studies.
What have you found to be the most interesting statistic when it comes to the Latino community? Because, as you said before, talking about those incarcerated, the number of poor, you look out there and you see some really staggering numbers.
Oh, absolutely. We see staggering numbers. I think probably what staggers people the most is when I tell them that you know, 60% of Latinos are U.S. born. Right? Most people think that most of us are foreign born. In fact, a large majority of us are born here in the United States, yet we still have some of these pressing social and economic issues. I mean, I can't really think of I can't think of the most staggering number. I mean, right. Different numbers are staggering for different reasons and for different folks, right? Mm-hmm. But I think another important demographic indicator is that in the year 2000, Latinos, we were roughly 35 million Latinos in the United States. Okay. In 2000, we were neck to neck with the African American population to be the largest minority in the United States. African Americans had, I think, 36 million. Latinos had 35 million. Well, in the 2010 census, there's 50.5 or 50.6 million Latinos in the United States. So we went from 35 million to 50 million in a 10-year period. Okay, so the demographic growth of the Latino community is something that's happening very, you know, it's happening with a great speed. We have an almost exponential growth in our community, and this, you know, this is there's a lot of positive things that are going to come out of this. I mean, we contribute a lot to this society. We are you know, we're bringing diversity to places that didn't have diversity before. We have high participations in the labor market. There's a lot of us who are going to school, you know, getting an education and being productive members of society. But with that demographic growth also comes concerns about the possibility of an emerging underclass. And the reason why tomorrow's focus is beyond the 2012 elections is because I'm a political scientist, and I'm very, very clear that the solution to solving the social and economic problems in Latino communities, those solutions are going to be political and civic solutions, right? It's only by building up the political power of Latinos in the United States that we're going to be able to be in a position where we can begin to resolve some of these social economic issues.
Do you see that on the rise right now? I mean, we see Latinos operating in, look at here in New York State. You got them, Assembly, Congressman Serrano, and yet and still I remember having the Dominican president on a couple of weeks ago, and she's saying that, even still, it's not equal representation. Still needs to be a greater push to have more Latinos in public office. Do you think that this is around the corner?
Well, this is why the title of tomorrow's event is Beyond the 2012 Elections, because at least from the way I approach politics, I don't think it's just about getting more brown faces or Latinos in public office. I'll give you the example of Los Angeles. Los Angeles, we have a Mexican-American mayor, the first Mexican-American mayor in 100 years in Los Angeles, 150 years. Yet we still see greater cooperation between the police and immigration authorities in Los Angeles, more people being deported out of Los Angeles County jails than ever before. We have overcrowding in our jails. We still have the highest dropout in our schools. So it's not just about getting more Latinos elected. Now, granted, that type of formal representation where you have people who look like you in office that know the needs of the constituents, that's a necessary but insufficient step towards Latino political empowerment. Latino political empowerment, at least in my view, the way I approach politics, is something that happens in civil society. It's not just about getting someone elected, but it's about building the consciousness and the organizing tools of the average working class Latino immigrant or non-immigrant. So I'm talking about Puerto Ricans in the Bronx, Puerto Ricans in East Harlem, Mexicans who are working on 116th Street. Right? We got to build their political power and let them come to the table and say what are the pressing issues in their community. I don't think that we're going to solve the community's problems by getting more people elected per se.
Tell me about this. Well, first of all, we're talking about tomorrow's conference taking place at Lehman College. We encourage you to come on out and be a part about this, be a part of it, I should say, as it's a very lively discussion and some things that will be quite enlightening. And I want to talk about post 9/11, if you will.
Absolutely.
Post 9/11, there is the whole immigrant issue and the look at immigrants and those people who are entering into the country. A lot of questions are still, surfacing, and a lot of backlash. And I know this is something that you're also bringing to the table too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, after 9/11, we began to see a merging of what was previously immigration enforcement and the national security, anti-terrorism become one and the same. And this happened for a variety of reasons. In particular, several think tanks in Washington, D.C. and policy groups that are linked to the radical right wing, they saw an opportunity to implement their nativist agenda, right? An agenda for restricting immigration numbers to the United States, right? These are groups that want to bring down the numbers of immigrants in the United States, and they really want to keep this country a rather homogenous and monolingual society. These groups saw an opportunity that if they can make immigration about anti-terrorism, they'd be able to implement a lot of the tough enforcement provisions that they have had in their wish list of policy proposals for several years, at least since the 1980s. So after 9/11, we begin to see the federal government enforce immigration law with things like the Patriot Act. We see the formation of the Department of Homeland Security. Before it was the Immigration Naturalization Services. Right. Right. And with this building of this national security apparatus, we have the deportation of millions of Latinos. In fact, if you look at the deportations, they grew exponentially for 2001 until 2010. In the last 2 years, for instance, over 1 million Latinos have been deported. 1 million people have been deported, not all Latinos. Maybe about 70 to 80% of those are Latinos. And deportation is a human rights crisis. People are being deported to Dominican Republic. They may not speak Spanish anymore, or they may have never lived in Dominican. They might have been born there, but they had never grew up there. Some of these people go back to Dominican Republic, El Salvador, and Mexico. They can't get a job. People discriminate against them because how they speak Spanish. In cases of Guatemala and El Salvador, a lot of these young men are killed. I just learned about a case last week, for instance, of a man who had mental illness, who was caught crossing the border. He had a heat stroke and went brain dead, and they still deported him. Imagine that, deporting someone who's brain dead to another country. Now, this is a serious human rights crisis. And these are some of the things that are actually going to be talked about tomorrow at Lehman College as this very special conference is going on. I'll give you one last second to give us the information as to when and where. The conference is going to be in the East Dining Hall here at Lehman College. The conference starts at 2:30. It's going to go from 2:30 to 5:30. That will be the discussion. That will be the keynotes, the keynote address, and the panel discussion. And then from 5:30 to From 5:30 to 6:30, we're going to have a reception with food for people who want to join the event. And there's always free food. You know, it's always a great way to bring
Food
people.
will get you there.
And then afterwards, we're going to have a theatrical performance that examines what it means to be Latino in the United States.
Professor Alfonso Gonzales, good to have you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you for a lively discussion.